protest in the national capital, and that enters 12th day, the representative farmers organization handed over a letter to the government listing their demand, including a special session of parliament to repeal the three farm laws. And the leaders have claimed that the new farm law would pave the way for doing away the minimum support price MSP and will leave the poor farmers on the mercy of big corporate. Now they also want to fix the MSP. Suppose if the uh, price is rupees 100, they want to fix it 150. So all these are happening. So I thought let's discuss this topic today. What is the real reason behind this agitation of farmers?
Yes, Kanchan. So it is actually fortunate or unfortunate rather to see that the farmer, the growers of the food, our annadatas are protesting, and there is a counter thought which says that if farmer is protesting, who is creating the food for us? So there was a time in India when our respected Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri had said, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. And from those days, India being the agricultural economy, we have always respected the farmer's profession. But given the, uh, what do you say, different aspects of the farmers in every part of India, it is important to understand the real pain points. And I think the government's motive in this is a transformation and a transition from the practices. But as you know, Kanchan, the change is the most hated word.
Correct.
So all the places where there is an established pattern of doing things, nobody expects a change, and especially when somebody's whole layer or a job or a prospect of earning any money is going away, it is bound to hurt, and
Right.
it is hurt badly.
Right.
And therefore, it is important to see where it will go. However, there are some contours that the government can manage in much better way rather than the way it is being managed from a media angle. Because most of the people on the media, they don't seem to understand the depth of the challenge. They only either see it is a politicized issue, or they don't see it at all a farmer's issue. So I'm seeing, people are returning their Padma Shris, and Bollywood actors are joining, sports people are joining, and people are making statements. So the narrative that is coming out of the farmers' protest is something that needs to be carefully handled, and not, I would say, like in public administration, you cannot use the hard fact when the emotions and of the people are involved. And what would you say when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau comes and speaks for the protest? And this makes it suddenly an international issue. So what is your take on not only the politicization but also the glamorization of this protest?
Yeah, I feel that this is entirely inland agitation, and if farmers are having some issues, I think they are reaching out to government. The government is also facilitating the meetings, and they are discussing this issue. But I don't think so that any international person has any right, any a person who's outside of India, especially the state heads, have right to really interfere in this matter, because government's intention behind this is to make a uniform market arrangement for agriculture commodities across a country to enable farmers to get their better option while selling their produce. Sitesh, all these practices, these are old practices, and they are there in existence from British Raj. And now, what I have read or what I have heard is that the farmer was not allowed to sell their crop to their neighbors also. So they have already appointed middleman. The one farmer will sell to that middleman, and then things will follow upwards. Now, farmers will be getting a very small amount of the cost of the crop, and then over the period of time that increase. So the beneficial were the middleman, and what all people are saying, all other people, not the farmers. Now for this, they now what government has said that there no longer there is no need for a farmer to really visit mandis repeatedly because there's no middleman. And besides this, a long wait in mandis, farmer had to come across with many problems regarding quality of their produce. And after this amendment in the mandi, now farmers can sell their crop to private traders and from their home itself, sitting at their home. They need not to travel. Even they can contact the international buyers also. So it is easier and more profitable for farmers to sell their crops, and the option to sell produce at the support price in mandi will remain just as it is with the farmer. Now, what I feel the glamorization and all other, I'll put it as a anti-national kind of act which is going on for people who are glamorizing this cause of farmers. Because I also heard that more than 1 lakh farmers have signed and given this in written that they support government act, this farm act. So I feel it's entirely, and whoever who's coming from outside and supporting this farmer act or whatever agitation, or the head of this agitation should say no. Because I've also heard there's Khalistanis board, there all other stuff is pouring into this farmer agitation rather than really discussing the real point, the farmer's benefit.
Correct, Kanchan, and that is what makes it little, not interesting, but saddens, because if there are genuine issues, then it seems that the politicization and the glamorization is taking away the genuine issues and then focusing on something else, probably a bigger narrative that is somebody is trying to hijack, you know. But that is also a fact that almost 30 to 45 farmers organizations have also joined and the protest. So it is important to understand then, as I said in the beginning, the fact plus the story plus the way it is being peddled and the way it is being narrated, and whether it is reaching to the right set of ears within the government. Now, the stark facts, in one of the debates I heard that 70% of the minimum support price MSP allocation that goes to just two states, that is Punjab and Haryana. But then one professor actually said, but because that 70% of the country's food production comes from Punjab and Haryana. And then there was an analysis of it, which doesn't prove it. So the statistics which was coming out from the 2017 and 18, let's say about the wheat, the largest contributor was Uttar Pradesh, followed by Punjab, and then Madhya Pradesh, and then Haryana comes at the fourth. Rajasthan, Bihar, Gujarat follow it as fifth, sixth, and seventh. That shows that Punjab and Haryana together contributed only 28.28% of the total wheat production in 17 and 18. So the MSP that needs to be distributed, if it, as per the government says that it is going to stay, it needs to be distributed. It cannot just be allocated to just two of those states. And especially that's what we see, most of the farmers protesting are from those two states and not other states. Similarly, on the rice or the paddy, what we call, the largest contributor of rice and paddy, rice or paddy is West Bengal with 13.26% for the same period, 2017-18, followed by Punjab is number 2, Uttar Pradesh number 3, Andhra number 4, Bihar number 5, Tamil Nadu number 6, Orissa 8, Assam 9, and MP at the 12th position. So Punjab is number 2 and Haryana is number 11 in the rice and paddy. So again, there is not a very clear or a justified MSP projection or budgetary condition. So this is something that needs to be understood from a larger data perspective. But again, in our country, the data, somebody needs to either sugarcoat the data or sensitize the data. And I think both are bad. Neither sugarcoating is bad, nor sensitizing is bad. Somebody needs to take a balanced approach, and for that, dialogue needs to happen. Ministers need to sit with the representative organizations, and the dialogues should happen in a fair and a transparent manner. Probably this all can happen on a national TV. And why not? Where the ministers, there is nothing to hide. And if there is literally there is nothing to hide, why there can't be a national debate? But the debate needs to bring in the right decision makers to the people who are on the protesting side. And then incremental changes need to be brought in. I hear that government has principally agreed with those 3 laws and not implementing on a big bang approach, but in a slow and the phased manner. And I think that kind of dialogue and that kind of a story going out into the international media makes the case for us. This we all are trying to struggle to come back as a country on the economic front. Any such thing which helps or hurts the farm sector is going to help or hurt us international ratings also. So I think the current dispensation of the government, as well as the protesters and the people who think that they are representing the protesters, they need to think from the India's image perspective rather than just politicizing or glamorizing it. What do you say?
I really feel so kind of funny that only few states are in the agitation. And I've heard that Mamta said from West Bengal that she supports this agitation, but she doesn't allow any agitation in her state. Likewise, many other opposition parties, they are pouring in Delhi and supporting the farmers in this agitation, but in their state, they say no, we don't want agitation in their state. So again, I think that is a hypocrisy because what I feel like, I'll take an example of a state, Madhya Pradesh. And Madhya Pradesh is the first state in the country which has made amendment in the Mandi Act in the interest of farmers. And this amendment will directly benefit the farmer. Now they can derive maximum benefit of their produce. For this, they will no longer to visit mandis. And then on the other hand, the commission agents have got freedom from the license raj. And on the other hand, it's also opportunity for farmers to strengthen their financially. So all this is being done in, according to my understanding, to strengthen the financial position of farmers. So, whatever agitation are people who are into this agitation, I feel more of those people who are a middleman. So they don't want to really go away from that system. As you have rightly pointed out, that any change, if is done, people do come out and agitate. But I think people, especially farmers, they have quite a big understanding what government is doing. And if I can read out something, because this government is doing a lot of for farmers, and they want to strengthen the farmers' position because India is an agricultural country. The all support, economic support is being done by agriculture. So government want by 2022 to double the salary of farmers. So that in this process, government is doing too many things. They have introduced Kisan Pension Yojana. They have done Kisan Train. They have done Ayushman medical support for Kisan. They have also done Kisan Samman Nidhi, which is around 6,000 rupees. Then they have also done Bijli and Pani ki Vyavastha, health card. So all that will benefit to the Kisan along with other people also who are in this agriculture or in village sector. So what I feel is that whoever is doing and misleading people across India, I think they should think once what they are doing.
Kanchan, yes, I agree. I completely am with you on that. And during the debate that I referred to, I also heard a renowned farmer leader from Andhra Pradesh, Sri Chengal Reddy, saying that there are fruit and vegetable producers of are there producers of chili and spices, pulses, oil seeds, tubers, rubber, cotton, sugarcane, and others. They are also farmers too. And it is not only about the wheat and the rice production. Therefore, only Punjab farmers cannot hold the country to the ransom. But as we are seeing in the protests, that Diljit Dosanjh has joined it from for the protest, Khalistani flags, as you said, and that shows the connection between the Canadian Prime Minister's statement, for which Canadian ambassador was also asked to explain his position to the Indian Foreign Affairs Ministry. And Vijender Singh, the great athlete and Olympian, has joined the protest. Prakash Singh Badal, probably I heard that he was considering returning his Padma Shri. And then there are many others who are talking about, that politicization is something that is irrelevant. And the other thing that is very important to understand is that when you say government is trying to do good things for a farmer, let us understand how much educated the India's farmer is today. They need India's farmer is not all the rich farmers. There are poor farmers, there are unrepresented farmers, and there are farmers who will need cooperatives to talk on behalf of them. And therefore, we will always have farmer organizations. We will always have farmer leaders, and we will always have politicians who have made their careers out of the farmer's life. And therefore, to the end user, end farmer, it is not easy for the farmer to read and understand the policy, the details, the law. Ultimately, the farmer has to carry his crop to somewhere to sell it. And that somewhere, whether it is an APMC, it is a mandi, or it is direct to our homes, is something that a farmer has to arrange a lot of logistics to reach out. He has to do a tie-up, and therefore the farmer needs to be educated. And I see that in all of this protest, where the farmer is getting educated about these complex laws, policies, logistics, supply chain. It is not just about production. Farmers generally are not so much educated in the country, if I see the larger population. So there is always chance of misrepresenting them, or misquoting them, or even going up to like cheating them, or short selling them, as they call it. So there is something that there has to be a farmer education which needs to be reached out to the farmers in the gaon, in the village, in the chaupals, to tell about them. And that's something I would suggest the government needs to do, to reach out in every state, and the farmer bodies through which they can reach out to the farmers, probably a national Doordarshan channel to explain the situation. I hope Doordarshan ka DD Kisan channel is doing it. I'm sure. I hope it.
Yes, I think there's government should reach out to the farmers, and I think they should educate if they are poor farmers. But what I feel is that farmers are maybe 50% of farmers, they know what about the bill and they understand fairly well. And whatever agitation is going on, I think they are not the real farmers somehow. This is my feeling. And because what I feel is that this is the alternative system which is being created by government, and when the system come into existence, a new competition will rise in the trade of agriculture commodity, and that will benefit farmers. So when all this is happening, and government and all people or intelligent people, they have put together their minds and drafted this bill. So I think. I don't see any specific farmers coming out and really agitating, because most of the farmers are happy, as I have mentioned Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who has done a charisma by connecting all farmers with the global marketing by making amendment in Mandi bill in one stroke. So this is how. So people who are coming from Punjab or little bit from other states, so I think it's more political than it is related to farmers' benefit. And when I feel that some non-social elements also there, like Khalistan and other stuff, and political parties are opening their kitchens, and they're making, they're taking a whole sense of any agitation which is related to farmers, and I think that is a disrespect to farmers. So that I really feel very strongly about this agitation, and I think farmers are of India are capable to put across their demands. They need not to agitate, do all these stuff on agitation like this on roads, that too, and chilly winters, and when there's a corona crisis. So that is my take
I,
on.
I hope so, Kanchan. And while we spoke about the politicization and the glamorization, I also want to point out it's also important to understand the corporate benefits by the national top level corporate houses versus the international corporate houses as well. And therefore, it is important that farmers benefit, the end mile benefit has to be taken care, and someone has to stand for them, and who that would be is something that we need to really find out, debate, and enable the farmer. And another thing why which I would like to end our conversation today is that it is still, I have not found in India farming as a great career choice, whereas in the rest of the world where I have worked, people want to go back to the farming despite living in the city with their corporate jobs. They very happily take up a farming job and farming work. They go and work in the farms. They have their own farms. But in India, farming as a career choice, the day it will happen, the farmer will automatically be educated and knowing what is good for them.
I'll put your last point in a way, because there are many changes happening, especially in youth in India. And I found many people from IT sector, especially they have given up their career and they've bought a land and they are doing fairly good in agriculture. But this message is a very crucial message, and people should join this sector, because we are from village. We our culture come from that, and we are agricultural country. So we have to take this seriously. A part of this, I feel. I really feel that government and this people who are represented of farmers, so-called farmers, they should sit together and they should discuss, and let's see, maybe tomorrow or day after they should end this agitation and do something productive for the country and for themselves. It was nice talking to you, Suresh, and let's meet tomorrow with another interesting episode. Till then, bye bye. Take care.
Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Likeable Leaders. This week, I am honored to present to you Mr. Subir Saxena. Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies and I'm in company of very senior professional, a global player who joins us today, Ian Moyes, Chief Revenue Officer of OneUp Sales. He joins us from London and we will talk about very interesting subject. But before that, let me invite Ian.
Hi, everyone. I'm pleased to be here, and hopefully we're going to have a meaningful conversation that will give you some insight and some value in your time spent listening.
It will be a pleasure, Ian. And think one big problem that everyone has, and people like you and me, we have to handle a lot of distributed workforce across the world. And the challenge that all of us are facing, all the chief executives and all the leaders across the world are facing that how they manage the workforce, that is one, and how they keep the workforce motivated. And since you work globally with so many organizations, with so many leaders, what is your opinion on this issue that we have?
Yeah, sure. And it's a challenge that was thrown on all of us, right? But before COVID, there was a mixed opinion on remote working. So we had many people already doing it, remote working, getting on with it. But often they were in certain roles. So, for example, territorial-based salespeople were often in this game anyway. Nothing's changed. They were remote working, they were out on the road with customers, and they periodically would come to an office. So for those, the role and the behavior type may have been ingrained in them for years. The real challenge has been those other, particularly back office people who previously were hired to be in an office. How many people would have hired a finance team or a support team previous to this on the basis of hiring remote workers? There are some, but most companies, even the high tech, leaders in the workspace and the most innovative, had a physical space or multiple physical spaces. They wanted that team camaraderie. They wanted people to learn from people through osmosis. The people sat around them. They wanted to drive motivation through a leader walking the floor. The old management by walking around. Um, so not many had thought about what would happen if we were all put into this situation for obvious reasons. And I think that the thing to contend now is how has behavior changed and how does it need to change in leading teams? Whether that team is small or large, how are you behaving in engaging with those individuals um, and managing them? And one of the behaviors I've seen and had discussions around is typically people metricize this. So you look for metrics that are easy to measure, KPIs, for example, and that you can visibly see in systems. So people will look in their CRM for how many calls has someone made today, or what activity have they created? Are they being active? And this is one of the first areas I challenge people, that activity is not necessarily productivity. Activity does not, by definition, have a direct correlation to the outcome. There is a difference between correlation and causation. What you want is activity that causes the right outcome, but doesn't just show you that someone's busy. Um, so it's very difficult because what I've seen is leaders looking at the activity in a system and then using the stick approach to pick up on an individual of, well, you're not doing enough calls, you don't seem like you're working up putting enough activity in. And there's a real danger in leadership and management that you will interact with your team, with your employee in a different way that stems from suspicion. Right? If you suspect they're not putting the effort in, how are you going to address that? And that's the hard piece, particularly now it's remote. Because in an office, you'll see that behavior. The individual around their colleagues will probably feel that behavior themselves, right? If that individual slacks off for a 2-hour lunch, if that individual is easing back and not putting the effort in, maybe not, you know, in a work environment, it would probably be a conscious thing. You can feel that's happening because you can see people busy around you. If you've stood at the water cooler having a chat for 2 hours, you know people are seeing you. There is a sort of self-policing aspect. If you're at home, you don't have a camera on watching everyone the whole time, right? It's inappropriate. You've got to trust the behavior of individuals to be getting on with their job. How do you know they are? How do they know they are is an interesting question. They may be slacking. What if they're working at 70%, 60%, 30% of normal, but they've slowly evolved into that behavior and they don't realize themselves because they haven't got visibility of colleagues around them. They haven't got the buzz of the office of what's going on. You know, there'll be some metrics in your systems, whether they be CRMs or ticketing systems or what they've been, but do they have visibility of how they compare and contrast to the people around them? Do they know actually they're doing the least effort per day out of a team of 10, 30 people, whatever it is? People don't want to be letting people down by the nature of it, but at home they have more distractions. So it's a different environment. It's something we've not had to deal with before. And it's very easy for a leader or manager to fall into miscreant behaviors, you know, using the stick instead of the carrot, using the negative. And does a manager, you know, I ask myself this, do I really want to spot someone who isn't behaving in the right way, isn't you know, is letting the team down? That is a difficult call. What do? Do I call them in the afternoon and say, look, you're letting it? It's an uncomfortable call for me, you know, and it's an uncomfortable call for that individual, particularly when they may say, well, I didn't know, I had no intention, and it all feels bad. It's one of those difficult conversations. So I think we need to look at, you know, a number of factors. How the individual, do you understand the individual situation of that team member? Because they may have specific challenges today that you need to appreciate, depending if they're homeschooling, depending if their partner is in you know, the medical services, having to do things differently than they were before, work extra hours. What is their situation? And then understand what is the behavior you should be able to expect from them still. Because after all, you're still paying them. You know, whilst we're all in a difficult situation, they still have a role to deliver to. And if they're not delivering, what impact does that have on the people around them? That's the other aspect. You know, if one person or two people out of a team are being allowed to not perform, does that create extra work for the others? Do the others have visibility or feeling of that? And how does it make them behave? Does it make them feel, well, if they can do it, I can do it? So it's not we're not in an easy place right now for any leader or manager in terms of the people. And I think the people is the hardest piece we're having to deal with.
Yes, and actually, these are very real problems. In fact, all of us are facing it, and there are tools available in the market which you know, companies like us, small companies, can invest in, and there are VPNs to measure the time. But I'm sure what the point that you're making is very relevant. You know, we can build all the systems, but the humane side is something that we need to reconsider, because nowadays we are also getting exposed to the personal home affairs of our employees, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
in the video we can see, like you mentioned, the partners may be busy and these guys are doing babysitting while working also. So what is the solution, Ian? I think now we have identified the issue, how we can tackle it.
Yeah, so I think there's a number of things. I think one is that, let me give you some examples of the things you can do. One is think about doing regular team calls. You know, perhaps doing a morning huddle. Think what works for you and your team and the size of the team. But some of the behaviors I've seen and talked to people that are working well, and many people have adopted this, is, you know, are you having, for example, a morning call every morning for 15 minutes where everyone jumps on that's available, and it isn't about jumping on and checking the metrics, etc. It's about having a chat. It's having a coffee. It's that behavior you have when you go into the office, where you also have morning, oh, what did you do last night? That sort of thing. is just creating that camaraderie so they don't feel isolated. So it's the people piece. Or, you know, the other way you can do that is do a beginning of the week and end of the week. Just think what works for your team, but something where you bring the team together. So that's number one. Two is thinking about touching base with the team members. And I do this with my team, and I've done this over the whole COVID, but not in a way that is isolating the individual. What I mean by that is have a legitimate reason to touch base. Now, it might be they're working on a particular customer opportunity or a customer problem or a particular project. Have a reason you want to touch in with them and talk about something of that. And part of that conversation, you can easily then ask, you know, how are you getting on? How's it been this week? And this sort of thing, rather than you call them to have that conversation of how you doing. Well, guess what? If that's why you're calling me, you go into a sort of a programmed answer. So it should be part of the normal work environment that you are regularly finding a reason to call them for a business reason, not just to check in on them, because that becomes they know what you're calling for, right? You're talking about something else, and part of the conversation is that warm part of, you know, and how are you finding it the past few days? Is this project keeping you busy? You can make it part of a more natural conversation and more genuine. The other thing you can consider is for those individuals that you feel may be struggling is having a conversation with them. Look, I need some help on something. I've got a particular project that I'm working on as a leader. Could you take part of it off my plate? Make them feel wanted and needed with sub-special projects. You know, that's outside their normal remit, maybe stretches them a bit, but maybe makes them feel more valued. The other thing to look at is what metrics you're looking at of the behavior. Because as you rightly say, there are tools to do this. What I've seen is a lot of people just use pure tools that the manager looks at. You know, CRM stats around how many calls they've made, or how many new opportunities they've created, how many tickets they've closed, etc. And that's really me as a manager looking at that and looking at an individual's performance. And if it isn't good enough, what do? Bring the stick in. One of the things you can do there, and it's a little bit slanted towards what we do at One Up, but is you can, on top of CRM data, very easily, you can present that data to those employees in a more interesting way. And a lot of people have been turning this on during COVID, is gamifying that data. Because you've already got the data, is representing it in a way that all of those employees see it in a very friendly manner, gamified. So for example, you might have 5 or 6 metrics that a particular team it's important to have that they're behaving right and creating activity around those metrics, because that, you know, is the cause of the outcome you want. You know, if they're not making calls, they're not following up, they're not creating opportunity, or whatever they're not doing these things, we know we're not going to get the successful outcome. Well, easy, put some points around those things, present a leaderboard, and have something on a screen that you can display to all of them, even remotely, which during the day keeps them up to date on how they're doing against their peers. So it makes it a bit of fun as well, right? There's no problem with having a bit of fun at work on work factors. So we've seen a lot of people use this to gain, you know, it's about marginal gains. You don't have to take someone working at home and double their performance and output, but if you can get a 5 or 10% gain through simple things such as this, presenting it, making it a bit competitive, and letting them know where they stand, and let everyone can see, oh crikey, you know, Joe's on top of the leaderboard today. I'm gonna beat him tomorrow. You know, driving that, because then it becomes self-motivation. It doesn't need you calling them to say you're falling behind. They can see it all the point during the day. They can see where they're at. My kids are gamified, right? They're doing learning online at the moment, and if they see someone in their class is a bit ahead, they put a bit more effort in and put a few more hours in to do it, rather than me standing over them saying, you need to do another hour of this maths. Which one would you prefer? The individual doing it themselves, or which manager wants to micromanage and call people and prompt them and tell them? So there's simple things you can do to gamify the data you've already got that you can turn on very, very quickly and create a bit of fun in the team that wasn't there before.
I think this is a fantastic idea, Ian. I think, I think I've never heard this before, gamify your performance itself. So I have one question. Do you
Sure.
have some Excel-based model, or are there any tools available to do this? Because to be imaginative also will take a lot of time for people like us. If it is something
Yeah,
ready-made available, I can, use it simply.
it's a bit biased because it's what we do at One Up Sales. We have a very simple cloud-based tool that you turn on, and it will suck data from lots of different systems very easily. The data you've already got, and just gamify it for you, and make it pretty on screens with nice images. The users can even put their own photos in, and if you wish, put their own sounds in, so that if they do something that makes it successful, they close the most tickets there. Whatever you decide is something to be celebrated, it can create an alert with their sound and their picture on the screen, telling everyone, "Wow, look how this individual did today." So yeah, we've got a tool that does that. That's very easy. Um, and the beauty of it is, this isn't a big decision for people to make, but it really means something to your employees, and for the managers, it means you don't have to micromanage. It creates self-motivation in people on a daily and hourly basis. It shouldn't be once a week you check in, look at the metrics, and then go, "You're not doing good enough." That doesn't cause corrective behavior. If someone can see all the time how they're performing against their peers, in the office you could see it, but if you could see it now remotely, wouldn't that be interesting? That you start going, "Oh, I need to do a bit more today now because I can see I'm third place, I'm fifth place. I want to be up there today." And you start behaving, and it self-adjusts. It's such a wonderful thing to see.
So what is the input for this data? How the measurement will get into the system to make sure that the grading happens?
Yeah, so the way we do it, we suck the data from your CRM system automatically. So it's pretty easy. All you have to decide as a business is what data needs to be measured that you want to be represented. we link it so it sucks that data in automatically. So we're automatically checking for that data and pulling it in. So you don't then have to do anything. There's no manual. You can manually upload spreadsheets and do data. You can do, but you don't really want to be doing that, because now you've created someone a job of doing this. And the key thing about gamifying data is it needs to be up to date. People need to trust the data and see it very simply. And then you just yourselves go, "How do I want to represent this?" And here's a really interesting thing. It isn't just about people playing against people. You can have teams against teams, and you can have different size teams, with it automatically balancing it. So if you've got a team of 6 people against 10, it automatically makes it fair and balances the metrics that it's like you've got 10 against 10 competing. So it gives more points relatively to the 6 appropriately, so that if they did the same behavior, fair outcome. So it's a great thing for driving team behavior, team targets, individual targets and behavior. And you can even have it that people can challenge each other. Wouldn't it be great? I'm sat here right now. I want to challenge Bob, who's the other side of the country, but in my team. I want to challenge him today to do more calls than me. I want to challenge him today to close more tickets than me, create more opportunities, whatever it is. I can issue that challenge as an individual. I don't need to go to management. I can start doing it myself and getting the team to compete with each other. And we all do it. We all live in a gamified world, in our consumer world. We all have applications that give you points and you get badges for it. If you do Salesforce training online, training systems, learning management systems are typically gamified, and you earn badges for each level you get to, and it drives self-motivated behavior. It works scientifically and psychologically. Gamification drives the right behaviors within people across the world. Why wouldn't we do this in business?
In fact, while you were speaking, I was trying to apply it to my own company, and it gave me an idea. Why can't we make the dashboard itself as a screensaver for everyone? So whenever you look at your screen, you know exactly which team is doing better and which is not doing better.
Yeah.
And then it will inculcate the ideas of competing between teams. And then if a team leader is prudent, and if he wants to basically compete with another team somewhere in some other city, he will exactly know which is the individual bringing his team score down, and then they will fix that point. So I think it's very interesting. How do we get access to this, Ian?
Sure. So by all means, two ways. One is thank you for giving me that opportunity. One is come to oneupsales.co.uk, or by all means come to me individually at ianmoyse.co.uk. That will take you to my LinkedIn profile, and by all means engage with me personally, whether it be you just want to have some questions or guidance on this, or you're actually interested in a technology to help facilitate.
Amazing. Because so far what we have done is, and we were thinking that we have nailed the problem. I'll tell you exactly what we have done. We have actually migrated all our employees to something called virtual office, and to give more personal time to each other. So like in the real world in 2019, we used to call each other for a cup of coffee. So we still do that, but we actually create a breakout rooms and we bring each other, individual coffees. The other person will bring his coffee, I'll bring my own coffee, and then we have coffee together. So up to that level we have done that. But I think you're talking about a next level, because you're now talking about using the digital world to automatically propel in the forward direction. So I think it's amazing. It's very, very
Thank you.
interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm sure a lot of viewers who are watching this may be interested in reaching out to you and leveraging this whole gamification concept. If there are ready-made tools available, they will like to access it. I'm sure a lot of viewers may be interested in doing this.
Super. Thank you. Look forward to hearing from some of you.
Right. Ian, it was a great pleasure talking to you today, and we will find some other great opportunity to discuss something else. But I think today's subject about
Thank you.
how to motivate your employees while managing them remotely using gamification as a concept is really, really mind-blowing. So thank you very much for sharing this with us.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
So see you next time, Ian. Take care, and we will catch up soon. Bye-bye. Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Tobra's Multiverse. And what we are discussing today, we are discussing about colonizing the space. And as a species, as a species which is intelligent, we can make different gadgets, we can make spaceships, we can solve puzzles of the space and universe. I think it is but natural for us to go out of Earth and colonize other planets. And I think this is always first time for everything. The mankind, primarily one of the countries on Earth which has taken lead, which is America. And about 50 years back, they sent their people on the moon. And after that, after the first Apollo mission, nobody has gone to moon. But there has been a lot of research. And if we need to be successful in understanding how humans can survive in outer space on other celestial bodies, I think it is but natural to start with our journey into colonization, starting with moon. So we need to get to the moon, learn how to survive on the moon, how to build structure, etc. And when I say that we have to colonize the moon, and that will propel the next wave of advancement and next wave of exploring the universe, exploring the space, starting with our neighborhood. And why I'm saying this, if you go back in history, the need for resources really started the colonization about 500 years back. So countries which were having lack of resources, they started discovering new sea routes, discovering new methods. They came to East by discovering, charting new sea routes, etc. And then the byproduct of that was a colonization. Same thing happened in United States, where the European went explored into the US of today, and they colonized. However, the people who colonized then started an uprising against the colonization, and hence they became the first democratic country in the world as we know it today. So I think the colonization is an important part of the growth for humanity, for uh, the life form which exists on Earth. And the best thing to do is to start with our neighbor, which is Moon. And if you look at the Moon, it is a very strange satellite. It is almost like 25% of the Earth's mass, and it is in fact so large that the Moon is not rotating around Earth. In fact, Earth and Moon are rotating around a center of central gravitation axis, which passes through Earth eventually. But then it affects the motion of Earth as well. So it makes the Earth wobble little bit. So I think that is a discussion for a different video, but I think let's concentrate on the Moon. So when we look at the Moon, it is a large object. It has substantial amount of gravity. It is stable. It is tidally locked. That means when it is tidally locked with Earth, it means that only one face of the Moon is visible from the Earth. So if we start our colonization efforts on Moon on the surface, which is visible on Earth, we can then monitor what is the activity going on right from Earth. So in case there is some activity, we have the very powerful telescopes and different kind of instruments which we can focus on the surface of Moon, and then also monitor what is going on there. But after reaching on the Moon, what drives the the next wave of scientific exploration? Because scientific exploration is only a cost center. It will not generate any new revenue. Hence, the motivation to start Moon mission is very, very little, and it is not going to last for very long. So I think we have to bring some rule of economy to the colonization. So I think in last 50 years, even though we have not stepped on the Moon, a lot of samples were brought back to Earth by the astronauts and also the cosmonauts of the USSR, and all this data is now available. And subsequently, a lot of research was done. There was a lot of mapping was done. There were a lot of radio analysis has been done using the ground penetrating radar. So, scientists know quite a bit about Moon, about the surface. And now if you see this particular image is about the image of this face, which is always facing the Earth. And if I take you back a little bit on the previous image, there's the dark patch on the Moon, is really, a matter of speculation. And for eons, humans were thinking they were the ocean basin and the water evaporated, but that's not the case at all. For some few million years back, or maybe billion years back, there was geological activity on the Moon, and there were volcanoes, and these volcanoes were oozing out the lava. That means at that point in time, the Moon core was hot and it was erupting. So this black portion is basically the lava, which is a new surface, and it has come out from the inside of the Moon. And the lighter surface is the lighter places on the Moon are the older surfaces. So the dark one is new and the light one is old. So we have all sorts of material available in these dark and light surfaces. And at this point in time, Moon is not showing any geological activity. There are no tectonic plates, there is no lava, there is no earthquake. And so when we say that there is nothing happening on the Moon, actually that is wrong to say, because the surface of the Moon is being shaped by the shower from the space, which is meteoroids, and they create the always, when they fall on the surface of the Moon, they create craters. So there is geological activity on the surface, but it is not the interior of the object is not hot, and it is not oozing anything out. So we have a lot of stuff available on the surface which are required by the mankind for the development of our own species. So if we go back to this map, which has been um, created by scientists of NASA and a lot of other agencies, we know exactly. So these are all color-coded surface of the moon on this side, which is always visible from Earth. We know that there are a lot of rare Earth element available on moon, and that could be one of the incentives for colonizing moon. Let me explain how. So when I say rare earth elements, these are the elements which are required for our machinery for different use, but they are not found in abundance on earth. And so you can go and see what are these rare earth elements. It includes titanium as well. So, and titanium, as you know, is used in all flying objects, in aeroplanes, etc. So there are very few countries who have the monopoly of producing the rare earth elements or metals. So there are two. The rarity is actually two kinds. One is, first of all, even if there are resources available, we don't have the rare earth element found in our own country. So then there are natural barriers to produce this rare earth element. Right now, the rare earth elements are found uh, in primarily 3 to 4 major areas in the world, and China being the largest. China as a country has the largest deposit of the rare earth element. So they excavate these metals and then give it to whoever wants it. So they have sort of a very huge monopoly, followed by US and followed by Australia and India. So these are all small uh, portions that they have, but rest of the world has very small. So rest of the world depends on primarily these 4 countries because they have the natural resources in their own country. And if I give you a little bit data points about who's producing these rare earth elements. So obviously China has the largest deposit and they are actually excavating it in a large volume. And then they are the major supplier of the rare earth element, which are used in a lot of our machinery, aeroplanes and computers and a lot of other, different use which are required. So while iron is also one of the most found element on earth and it's most stable, but then we also need these rare earth elements to make our machinery complete. And fortunately for us, the moon shows a lot of good signs of having a huge deposit of rare earth element, and that could be the incentive for mankind to go establish the first colony. And primarily these colonies will be mining type colonies. But when the miners goes to moon, they need to survive, and hence the exploration, geological exploration, scientific discoveries will be part of this whole process. So first we have to create an environment where we start looking at moon as a good place for us to start mining, starting with rare earth element, and there could be others also which are the elements which are not found on earth is the first side of it. Now why I'm saying this is important, primarily because if you look at the gold rush in 1700 and 1800, that really shaped America. The America of today that we see, so many people came from far off, from different parts of the world into America, primarily because there was a gold rush and people wanted to find gold and become rich overnight. And that propelled the expense of the empire of the country to such a vast area. So I think this is how the humans have evolved, and this could be one of the great reasons for us to go back to moon, start a colony, have an economic reason. Anyway, we need these rare earth element for our machinery, for our use. So there will be investment in terms of survival technology, in terms of scientific exploration, in terms of geological surveys, etc. And I think we can all go back because there is a lot of information available. We know exactly what we have to do. In fact, we know exactly what element is found where. And this is on this side of the face of the moon, which is visible to us all the time. So what we got to do is basically go there, set up a colony, start mining, and probably in near future start producing stuff which can be then exported out of moon onto the earth. So instead of bringing mineral in raw form, we can start making goods directly on moon, start shipping them to earth. So I think this will start the next wave of space exploration, and I think we can start with moon being the first candidate. So I would like to know from you your thoughts, and viewers, please do share your comments. What do you think about what I'm discussing with you? I will meet you in the next video next time very soon with some more information and analytics. Until then, bye-bye.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant, and welcome to this edition of Grit and Valor. As you know, friends, we bring the stories of exemplary courage, bravery, and valor in this series. And today we would like to talk about a very extraordinary person, a gentleman of the Indian Army, and his name is Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri. Uh, Kuldeep Singh has been a very cool and calm type of commanding officer, and he ex, you know showed the exemplary courage in the battlefield, and that is what makes him a recipient of Mahavir Chakra. And this was during the Battle of Longewala with Pakistan in 1971. So what unfolded and how the courage and valor was demonstrated by Kuldeep Singh, we will discuss in this edition. Major Kuldeep Singh was the army major at that time, and he served for many years even after the war. But as you can see that he has many citations. More prominent ones are the Mahavir Chakra, and this was awarded after the battle, about which we will discuss more in detail, and what actually happened on the battlefield, which made him extraordinary, and that is why he was proposed for a gallantry award, and he was in the end awarded the Mahavir Chakra. And we will also discuss what led to this battle, what happened after that, and what were the drawbacks on both sides, so that we give equal credit to everyone. And so the battle started in 1971, but as many of us know that the battle with Pakistan was primarily on the eastern sector, which is now known as Bangladesh. So most of the Indian army was deployed on the eastern border of India, whereas the Pakistan wanted to open the Western Front. And the Pakistan intention was that if the Western Front is also opened up, and that will create chaos in the Indian army, and they will be able to then control, win over and subsequently control a part of India, and then get onto the negotiation on the negotiation table. So the Longo Wall is a very frontier post of India, and it is in the middle of desert. It's actually middle of nowhere, and I think we have to also understand why such a post is there in the first place, and why Pakistan decided to invade through Longewala, which is in Rajasthan. And Longewala post is originally a post which was managed by BSF. Even today, Longewala post has been managed by BSF. But during the war in 1971, this was vacated by BSF, and then Indian Army had acquired that particular post. This post is about 18 kilometers from the international border between India and Pakistan. During the 1971 war, both India and Pakistan declared that Thar Desert, which is one of the major deserts in the world, it is not fit for any major invasion because of various factors. It's very hot during summer, it's very cold during winters, and there are no resources. There are no roads available. It's all barren land and it's all desert. In the Thar desert, the sand dunes are there, and if there is a storm, the sandstorm, these are legendary because you can't even see your hand. So both India and Pakistan declared that it is not a battleground. Yet Pakistan decided to invade through this area in 1971, and it's on the desert side. So we have to also understand what are the geographical location of this particular post. So as you can see, I'm trying to demonstrate to you that there is an international border between India and Pakistan. However, if you look closely, the border, there are hardly any town because it's all desert area. And the last post is F, which is the Longewala, and the Indian army was also trying to invade Pakistan, but Pakistan invaded India. The objective was that there is a city on the Pakistan side called Rahim Yar Khan, which has a major railway line connecting Lahore with Karachi. So India intention was in 1971 to capture this town, and by doing that they will be able to control the railway traffic which takes supplies from the port city of Karachi up north to the battlefield battle trodden countries. So there was a strategic armament which was being placed at point E. So most of the Indian army was concentrated on point E, and point F is where the Longewala post is situated, where Major Kuldeep Singh took charge with just 120 soldiers. His job was to just guard this, and there was no likelihood of any frontline invasion that can expect from this point. So it was just managing the post and guarding the international border. And you see these point E and F, if you win over these points, then point G is a major town in India called Jaisalmer. And then you get onto the road infrastructure, bridges, all the supplies which if enemy is able to invade India and win over point E, F, and G, then enemy will be able to use the infrastructure which was already available. So the invasion was planned by Pakistan uh, by a major task force which comprised of the armor corps and also a major infantry. So we will talk about that in a bit. But if you are able to win Jaisalmer, then your job of reaching New Delhi, which is the capital of India, is a lot easier because you have straight road to reach these cities. Major Kuldeep Singh used to be part of 23rd Battalion of Punjab Regiment. At this point in time, we will also talk about what regiment Major Kuldeep Singh belonged. It's very, very important to understand the type of people that work in this regiment even today. So this regiment was erected by, in fact, there are two dates. One was the King of Patiala in 1705, and later the British also erected a battalion which was also called Punjab Regiment way back in 1761. So if you consider the date of commencement of 23rd Battalion, which is Punjab Regiment, as 1705, then this is 313-year-old battalion. So you can very well imagine it is the oldest military battalion in India, considering 1705 as a date of formation. And because of being among the first few battalions of the Indian Army with very rich and vast history, many citations, many gallantry awards, there is always a peer pressure on people to show exemplary courage. So this is a battalion Major Kuldeep Singh belonged, and the people, the training, they when they fight together, the kind of support you get is all exemplary in 23rd Battalion of Punjab Regiment. So 23rd Battalion was given task of guarding the western border, and Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri was given a task to guard the Longewala post with only 120 Indian soldiers. So, what was building up, and that created the invasion of Longewala. See, basically, what was going on that before 1971, there are two Pakistan. One was West Pakistan, other was the East Pakistan. And these there was a sort of a civil war going on within Pakistan because of the political reasons and social reasons. And a lot of refugees were coming into India, and that was becoming a big problem. So in 1971, a point reached where it was unbearable to support so many refugees from the East Pakistan into India, and that is why India intervened, and the battle between India and Pakistan took place. And it was a decisive victory after 18 days of war, where a new country was born, which is now called Bangladesh. So East Pakistan was converted into Bangladesh. When the Pakistan saw imminent defeat, they thought that we will open up the Western Front. That means they will invade from the West Pakistan side on the western border of India. That will create a chaos or mayhem within Indian army. But their intelligence was not as strong. They were, in fact, I would say the Pakistani intelligence failed to predict the preparedness of Indian army. Indian army was from the beginning prepared on two-front war at that point in time. And that is why their deployment on the eastern border as well as on the western border was adequate, which the Pakistani invasion did not account for, and they decided to invade through the most difficult terrain, which is a desert, and they decided to invade India. So I bring the map once again. As you can see that when the column actually entered India, and they decided to invade from point F, which is Longewala, they did not know what was the terrain in Longewala. Their intelligence was not given adequately to their commanding officers. However, the commanding officers of the invasion force were basically creating a lot of propaganda within themselves, saying that it will be so easy to win over India that they will reach point G, which is Jaisalmer. In the morning, they will have their breakfast in the morning at Jaisalmer. They will have lunch in Jaipur, and they will have their evening tea in Delhi or probably dinner. So their plan and their bravado or their propaganda in their ranks was that by evening, by just one day, they will be able to bring India to its knees, and they will win over the capital and all that. So with that thought in mind, they started approaching the Indian border. They crossed the Indian border. On the other hand, there were a lot of clear intelligence gathering done by Indian forces. The Indian Air Force base was at Pathankot and also Jaisalmer. Jaisalmer airfield was not operationalized in 1971. In fact, the aircrafts were moved back from the front line to a much safer location. However, there were army aircraft which were doing reconnaissance, and they actually predicted the build-up on the Pakistan side, and that is why the Indian forces were on very, very high alert. You will be amazed to see the size of the invasion which came from the Western Front into India. The invasionary size of the invasion itself was 20 kilometers long, and it was consisting of 3,000 soldiers, 500 trucks, and 60 tanks, which were Sherman tanks and also the Chinese T-59 tanks. And there were a lot of other armored personnel carrier as part of the contingent. And with this huge force, the entire brigade level force, they approached Longewala. And when they were coming towards the post, their movement was noticed by the reconnaissance military aircraft, and it was reported to the concerned authority. So the Indian forces were very well alert, and Major Kuldeep Singh knew that the force is going to come on his post, they will attack. So at that point in time, the commanding officers had given Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri two options. One, to hold on and fight it out till the time you can, or vacate the post and join the rest of the army. So Kuldeep Singh, being a brave soldier, a brave person himself, he decided to hold on, and he decided to fight such a big army with just 120 men. Uh, there was not sufficient time to build the defensive parameter around it. So they hastily put the mines which were very visible. And in the end, the anti-tank mines were identified by the Pakistani engineers, and they were deactivated. So in a nutshell, the bravery was the only weapon these 120 men had. Major Chandpuri said that hey, the Pakistani invasion forces are coming to us, and they are telling their people that hey, within one day they will defeat India because they are such a huge column of armored vehicle and so many soldiers. So if you want to vacate the post, you can go back and join the rest of the army. But none of these 120 men vacated the post. They were standing with Major Kuldeep Singh in order to guard that post and also fight it out with the enemy. The the Indian defenses were 120 soldiers. They had only two machine guns. They had two mortar launchers, the 81 mortar launchers. They also had four shoulder fire rockets, which, when the battle started, the shoulder fire rockets came very handy because using the rockets they were able to uh, destroy some of these tanks. Later, on the second day, when the battle started, the reinforcement were provided, but it was not too much of a reinforcement. It was two jeeps with 106 guns. Recoilless guns were also provided to them, and three AMX light tanks, which were no match to the might of tanks that Pakistani had that time. But nevertheless, the next day, this was also provided to this Major Kuldeep Singh. Now, if you see the odds against India is 1 to 25, you can imagine, you know, there's such a big invasion which is coming, and only 120 men are going to guard the entire invasionary force of Pakistan. Odds are totally against India. Odds are totally against Major Kuldeep Singh. Yet he decided to stay on, and all his 119 men decided to stay on and fight it out, which is definitely a very courageous thing to do. And also, they were low on ammo. They had only two machine guns, which is useless against the tanks. And some say that the Battle of Longewala is comparable to the Thermopylae, or the famous 300 of Greek. So it is similar to that. The odds are totally against the Indian guard post and Major Kuldeep Singh. Now we have to also talk about the role of Air Force. Way back in 1971, India was not a very rich country. We were dependent on whatever arms and ammunition was available. We had very limited budget. So we had outdated aircrafts in those days. These were specifically, I will talk about these two aircraft, which are Hunters and Maruts. These are the aircraft which do not have night fight capability. That means they do not have radars fitted into these aircrafts. We didn't have resources, funds to upgrade these aircraft, but we had only these aircraft. So I will talk about much in detail about this battle when it took place and what is the role of Air Force in winning over this war ultimately. So when the battle really started on December 4th, 1971, the invasion was very well known to the Indian Armed Forces and Major Kuldeep Singh. Major Kuldeep Singh also sent a front party to trail along with the column, and the front party was using their walkie-talkie to convey each and every step that Pakistanis were taking. At that point in time, it was the Indian forces came to know that the Pakistanis were only talking bravado, but they did not prepare properly for this invasion. For example, their tracks they had on their tanks were not suitable for this kind of sand which was there in Thar Desert. So their tanks were getting buried. There was no, they did not had proper infrastructure to uh, repair their tanks. As a result, some of their tanks rendered useless. Their engine seized because they were exerting too much pressure in the sandy terrain in which they were running. So some of the tanks got disabled just because of the terrain. At the same time, Longewala post was at a height, and Major Kuldeep Singh and his team had prepared very nicely after studying the terrain defensive positions at a height. So when the column came, the Pakistani invasion column came towards the post, it was complete dark. And they did not, the Pakistani did not see that there are soldiers in this part of the post because they never had any intelligence given back to them. At the same time, that night was a full moon night. So the Indians could see what was going on in the battlefield, whereas Pakistanis had no clue, even though they were so huge in numbers, but they did not know what was going on the Indian side. The Indian soldiers had a lot of nerves. Major Kuldeep Singh told them not to open fire till the time the distance between the post and the tanks, Pakistani invasionary tanks, was merely 15 meters. And when the attack by Indian forces started, the hell broke loose. Pakistani did not know what hit them, and in the first few minutes of the battle, 5 to 6 frontline expensive Sherman tanks were destroyed by the Indian forces. And then the battle started. In a hurry during the night, um the Indian forces also had 10 camels with them, the BSF camels with them, and they should not be, the animals should not get lost in the enemy territory. So there was a barbed wire which was erected by the Indian forces to prevent camels to escape and get into Pakistan. On the While looking at this barbed wire, the Pakistani felt that the whole post was heavily guarded and there could be mines around it. There was a huge confusion when the battle started. So after the initial attack, when they came to know that the post is guarded and there is a huge army, but they did not know how many. They had no clue that only 120 soldiers are there. The entire frontline column halted any further movement, and they called the engineers to find out if there are mines on the battlefield, because just by looking at this wire, in the process of doing that, they also shot at the camels and they instantly killed 5 camels of the Indian army, which is not a very brave thing to do, just killing the animal. But nevertheless, let's move on. So when the battle continued by trying to see if they can disengage the imaginary mines which they thought they were there, they wasted 2 hours. The invasion actually started at 12, uh, 5 minutes past 12, the midnight of December or early morning of December 5th. The Indian side did not have any air cover, and surprisingly, the Pakistani Air Force also did not came to rescue of their soldiers. So battle grew, and single-handedly, these 120 men halted the entire column of 3,000 soldiers on the Pakistan side, and they fought very bravely for 6 hours. And these 6 hours became very crucial in the entire invasion of Longewala, or the entire invasion of Pakistan in 1971. As the sunrise happened, immediately the hunters and Maruts came, and they started shooting. They scattered the tanks in the battlefield in the desert, and they could pick up what they want to hit and pick and choose and destroy that tank. So there was a complete mayhem on the Pakistani side. They had not even prepared. They completely discounted the Indian Air Force. They did not prepare for any invasion on air from the sky. So in the end, it proved that there was a major intelligence failure on the Pakistani side. They were um they just talked bravado, but they did not plan their invasion properly. And within the first 6 hours of the battle, by the time Air Force came, some of the soldiers, foot soldiers, came and surrounded the post of Longewala in a circle, and there were firefight going on between the men of Major Kuldeep Singh and Pakistani soldiers. But when the Air Force arrived, they started shooting each and everything, whatever was visible to them, and they started shooting, destroying the trucks and all that. During this first crucial 6 hours, Major Kuldeep Singh was uh, not only holding and jumping from bunker to bunker during the shootouts. It was very risky to leave any post, but he was basically jumping from bunker to bunker, all around in the entire post, and trying to see if soldiers are, really fighting it out and all that. So he actually played a major role in ensuring, first off, not vacating the post. He decided, he was given a choice that you can come back. He decided to stay and fight it out, knowing that the invasionary force of Pakistan is huge. So with just 120 men with hardly any armaments, he decided to confront the enemy. Second, he ensured that when the battle was brewing, he ensured that each and every person is motivated to fight it out and destroy the enemy. So he played a major role in ensuring that the morale of the soldiers are kept high during the entire first 6 hours of the battle, which was very crucial to win the war. In the end, the whole day, the Indian Air Force came back, kept coming back the entire day. They kept destroying whatever they could find. Um, Surprisingly, even on the second day of the battle, there was no aircraft, Pakistani aircraft, to stop the Indian Air Force. So during the day, the fight continued on the ground with Major Kuldeep Singh's men and the Air Force in the sky, and complete mayhem on the Pakistani side. When the battle got over after 24 hours, the losses, when it were counted, uh, Pakistani lost 200 soldiers, 500 trucks, and about 32 tanks. So many of the tanks were abandoned by Pakistani. They just ran on foot because those tanks got stuck in the sand. On the other hand, the Indian losses were only 2 soldiers. They lost 2 jeep-mounted guns and 5 camels. So you see, this battle, even with odds of 1:25, turned out to be a total failure of the Pakistani army, which were invading India. I think when as an army or the modern army or even during the ancient times, when you invade a country, you basically prepare for the invasion, because the defensive people have to defend their own motherland. But when you invade another country, you have to be very clear about what is your objective, what you want to do. So obviously, this battle proved that Pakistani did not prepare well intelligently for winning over anything. So their objectivity was missing, their preparedness was very low, they were just only surviving on the propaganda. For this bravery of Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri and his entire team of 120, he was given Mahavir Chakra, which is the second highest gallantry award. Uh, Major Kuldeep Singh continued working for the Indian Army and retired as brigadier. This is very, very senior. So even today, hearing this story of Major Kuldeep Singh gives many Indians goosebumps. It's the ultimate story of bravery and courage and valor. This is the picture of the Mahavir Chakra, which was awarded to Major Kuldeep Singh. And this battle also showed that there was a coordination, a perfect coordination between all multiple forces of India. So there was a coordination with Air Force, there was coordination with ground forces, and all border security forces and all that. So the Indian force was very coordinated, whereas on the Pakistani side there was hardly any coordination. Then there was a lot of confusion. Nevertheless, the very fact is that you have only 120 men, and then you stood up against uh, armored corps, a major invasionary force of Pakistan, which was as long as 20 kilometers behind, and with so many tanks and so many trucks and so many armored carriers, we had the Indian force had no comparable weapon to stop such a force. Yet they fought it, they stopped it, and they gave created major casualty on the enemy front without losing much of their resources. Brigadier Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri passed away in 2018. After retirement from the army, he also participated in the upkeeping of his city, which is Chandigarh, and he did many things. He helped the nation by providing a lot of his contribution in terms of leadership role and all that. And in 2018, he succumbed to cancer. He survived with three of his sons and his wife. So, uh, he has been an inspiration, a living legend for most of the Indians. In fact, this battle is the second largest tank battle after Battle of Kursk. So it was a huge tank battle in which it is surprising that the one side used tanks, the other side only used light machine guns. Unlike the Battle of Kursk, where Germans and the Russians both sides had heavy tanks, but in this one, there were the invasionary force brought tanks, and the defenders did not have any comparable armor to defend. Yet they fought with a lot of grit and valor, and in the end, Punjab Regiment and Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri was awarded the citation of Mahavir Chakra. So, friends, this is the end of this video, and we will continue bringing the stories of valor of India to you. Please give your comments, like and share. And if you have any special request, share with us, and we will cover that in the next episode. Until then, I would like to say goodbye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion Forum. In this forum, we will be discussing the skills gap that we have today in India, and that may becoming a stumbling block to reaching the 5 trillion economy mark. And in this program, we call various leaders to discuss the prevailing issues. And today, I am honored to present to you Mr. Raj Neravati, who is the founder and CEO of a new age company called Hug Innovation. Raj and Hug Innovation are well known in the market uh, among the people and also among the various business fraternity. So, without further ado, let me present to you Mr. Raj Neravati. Hello, friends. This is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Last week, a very remarkable, outstanding judgment given by Supreme Court of India, and they allowed women soldiers to hold a command. That means they have been legally now given right to become a commanding officer. So essentially, there are two things. One is command, and that command will lead to combat. So women soldiers have not been given combat right now. They have been given command. But after 70 years of independence, the women were inducted in army or defense forces, but they were not given command for whatever reasons. So I don't want to go back into the history of last 70 years. But prior to that, we had women soldiers. We had many examples. Even during British era, when during the independence struggle, there were a lot of women who were fighting as a soldiers. And and even in the mythology, if you go back into Indian history, there are examples of women in combat, not only in command. So right now, I think it's a step-by-step process. The command has been given to the women, and that has a far-reaching impact on the configuration of the army. So far, the women who goes and work for defense forces in India, they had a short service commission, which is valid for 7.5 years. After 7 years, there is no extension if you are a woman soldier. But now, with the command being given, that means they can work as long as they are male counterparts in the army, and they can hold a command. They can command a platoon, they can command a regiment, they can command a brigade. So the possibilities are endless. And so the short service commission for women will get nullified, and they will have a long term career path in defense of the country, which is, I think it should have been done earlier. It should have been done when we got independence from British, but I think it is done now, and it has come from Supreme Court. I think I totally have faith in the women of my country. They can very well defend our country. They can contribute. They can plan things, and they can certainly command. So I welcome with this move from Supreme Court, and we are actually uh, waiting to see some valor from the women forces, which is still awaited in the independent India. With this, I will see you tomorrow. Please do leave your comments, and I will reply as quickly as possible. As usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today is International Women Day, and we will talk a little bit about International Women Day and what it means to men, what it means to society, and most importantly, what it means for women. So, before I start my conversation today, I would like to congratulate all women on this particular day, and I really appreciate the contribution made by women for the upliftment and running of the society. Today, I would like to focus more on the Indian women. And while there are a lot of women globally who have achieved so much, there are so many names that we can take today. But I like to focus on the women who are in the business of providing protection to India. So, providing protection to Indian people as well as Indian territory. So, these are the women who are working for the armed forces. Now, as most of you would know, that there are multi-layer armed forces that work for India. There is a topmost agency, which is the Indian Indian Army, which comprise of three different forces, which is Air Force, Navy, and Army. And in all of these top uh, departments, there are women employed at very, very important positions. Below that, there are border security force, there are other paramilitary forces, then there are police forces, and then there are reserves. So in all of these, there are a lot of women who are working as soldiers, as officers, and they are basically helping the armed forces carrying out different objectives at different point in time. Well, I when I say all this, there are lot of achievements that women have done, and we have also as a country recognized all of them. In fact, for example, there is a BSF group of daredevils who ride the motorcycles every day, and they perform various aerobatics even better than the men. And there is a team of Indian Navy which is called Tarini. They have circumnavigated the earth in a sailboat, and in fact when they returned to India, they were welcomed none other than the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. Like that, for whatever reason in the armed forces, women were not given that status until 2020. uh, there were two things which were not given to women, and that these two things were reserved only for men, that is the command and the combat. So in the history, I mean, before the Britishers ruled India, the women, or even during the British Raj, there were a lot of resistance and women were leading the way. In fact, there were warriors, and I don't want, there are a lot of names, I don't want to name all of them because there are many women who were fighting alongside the men. Many women have laid their lives for the country, and they died fighting. But after the independence was given to India in 1947, we sort of followed the rules set up by the British. And one of the rule was women were not given any command. That means they cannot become an officer. They can become an officer, but they will not become a commanding officer. And second thing was the combat. That means they will not go into battle. So in 2020, the Supreme Court of India has given them the command, and as a result, we have the first Lieutenant General as a woman this year, and she has been promoted as a Lieutenant General of first woman to become Lieutenant General, and she is obviously in the category of generals, and she is obviously a commanding officer. So like that, now this whole area is opened up. There are pilots. In fact, some of the trivia that I like to share is the Indian pilot, women pilot, are the highest in number from any other country. So if you look at even the developed country, the number of pilots that countries like United States or country like France has, India has more than them in terms of the pilot who are flying for the defense. So we anyway have crossed certain numbers. We are a large country and we have a lot of people, and so we have a lot of women also who will qualify to become commanding officers. So my tribute is to women who are working for the defense and the paramilitary services to continue what the good work they are doing. They are working shoulder to shoulder with men. Now they have equal rights. They can get promoted as commanding officers. They are already very brave. They have carried out various operations, and they are working for the safety, security, and development of the country. So salute to all the women on the occasion of International Women's Day. I say goodbye, and I will meet you tomorrow again. Until then, bye bye.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning. This is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, we are in presence of very eminent personality, Mr. Satya Madala, the CEO of Single Point Solution, which is a new gen organization focused on EV charge solution. Satya, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Chandra. Thanks for the introduction.
Right. So, Satya, we are in day 7 of the lockdown. The entire India is under lockdown, but I see you are suited booted, just like me. I'm also suited booted. We are working. I'm sure you're also working. You must have called your colleagues and your customers. What do you think, going on here? Would you like to share some experience?
Yes, Chandra. On a day one itself, like we took a drastic steps, segregating the employees. Just we segregated the employees in two ways: essential and non-essential employees, and just we gave an opportunity to them, to work from the work from home. To avoid this coronavirus to spread all over the office or something else. And at the same time, like we are already gave a orientation to employees how to behave and how to behave with the clients, how to behave with the neighbors, and how to manage a work from home, and how to take care of their their health and their family's health. All these measures we took, and so far it's going. It's already seventh day. Tomorrow it's going to be eighth and ninth. So the business is a little affected because of this, but still we are trying to manage as if we are working as in office. So every day just we are coordinating with the just we are starting our day at 9:30, and we are coordinating with the employees and customers, and we are transparently explaining the situations to the customers, and we are assuring them their future support and everything.
Very nice, Satya. So you have worked out a routine, and today you are joining us from Hyderabad. So how Hyderabad is treating you during this lockdown? Are there any challenges, or your society, your community has created some processes to handle this lockdown situation?
Yes, actually, Telangana government they took a good steps to control the people. Actually, so say for example, when it comes to our community, we are staying in a gated community. Actually, they took a major steps not to come out. Everybody should stay back into in their flats, not to come out, and they are providing all sorts of facilities, and they are providing vegetables and fruits and some of the food and everything actually inside the community itself. So that is a good step taken by the government as well as the community people here in Hyderabad. At the same time, I think everywhere it is same. I think everybody is taking necessary steps to avoid contacting other people, and they are not allowing neighbors to gather one place, even not even actually 2 to 3 people also. Just they are giving a tokens to go out to take some provisions. That too, just they are issuing only one token for each family. So it's controlled very well. Actually, surprisingly, till yesterday, I thought, like, it's my view. Actually, I thought everything will be closed by April 7th and we can start our work by 7th. But unfortunately, we heard a few cases are popped up in Hyderabad again. Maybe it may go for another little longer, but still, actually, with good steps, so they could able to government could able to control the situation. That's what I can just I assumed, and actually I predicted. So things will stabilize in a short while.
Yes, I think these things will stabilize. I think some of us, people like you and me, and some of my other industry colleagues, they are actually coming out with some routines and moving to the virtual world, because the business must go on. So, great that your community and yourself, you have also stepped up and you're using the virtual world to do business. I'm sure you must be facing some challenges because you mentioned that uh, the business is slightly low. So in fact, that's the same challenge I'm facing, that the customers are a bit slow on adapting the virtual world. I'm sure you must be facing the same thing.
Yes, yes, it is true. But there was a few uh, clients wherein actually we are trying to educate the client how to use the technology. Basically, some of the clients where we are operating is from real estate and healthcare sector, but they know how to use the technology, but not in a IT specs, like they don't know how to manage some of the cloud systems remotely. So we are educating them to utilize this period to get to know what the technology, how they can use the technology, and most of the people, they're trying to adopt it. They're trying to, they're more just encouraging us to give a good suggestions. At the same time, they are very much keen to adopt the technologies to utilize in their day-to-day activities in this time, in this period. So everybody is working from their home. I know it is when it comes to healthcare, even few of the doctors, they are going out and remaining other people, non technical people, they are working from home. So when we are dealing with the technical people in a healthcare sector, we are educating them how to utilize the cloud services. So that's what clients are doing. So just I explained only about one sector, but when we are working with the different sectors like automobile and like real estate, it is a little challenge for us to educate them. But I hope actually even they are also trying to adopt these technologies and utilizing it. So I'm facing a little challenge, but we can overcome by giving some education on the technology, and we are giving some sort of support, and we are giving some sort of assurance that actually about technology, so that people can adopt it easily, and we are giving some small tips to the clients, not to come out from the from their place, and they can utilize the technology. So that's what we are doing right now. So it's a more little challenge, but still, so it's an unforeseen situation for a employer as well as for a client also, for a company and client also, for both of them. It's a unforeseen activity. So it's a new, and at the same time, uh, so uh, this situation is not predicted earlier, or otherwise we would have taken a little some sort of steps. So but yeah, so people are trying to accept it as as the situation is going on. So anybody, it should happen.
Right, Satya, it is seventh day. I think we've got few more days in lockdown. So I'm sure
Yeah.
there will be another opportunity to talk to you after a few more days to check on how situations are. It was always pleasure to talking to you, Satya, and I think we'll
Thank you.
find another opportunity very
Thanks
soon to take your inputs.
thanks for the opportunity giving to me in this time. But still actually, we are trying to do our best, and we hope the things will stabilize in a short while.
Be safe, stay at home, and we'll catch up soon, Satya.
You too, you too. I'm also giving up all other companies and clients be safe and be at your home, and maximum try to manage your works by by using some technology. So don't come out, and we try to eradicate this virus as soon as possible.
Certainly. Bye for today, Satya.
Yes,
Bye bye.
thank you very much, Kanta. Bye.
friends, I'm Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies and you are welcome to Top Brass. And today we have Satish Srivastava from Johannesburg, South Africa. As you know, he has a deep interest in corporate training and he has been doing trainings and corporate teaching to professionals and IT professionals and marketing professionals. So without wasting any more moment, I would like to welcome Satish Srivastava. Welcome to the show, Satish.
Thank you, Kanchan. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Weather is good.
Exactly. So yeah, the weather is good here as well, though the temperature dips very, very sharply in the evening. But yeah, the daytime, the sun is really kind these days.
Yes, so far so good kind of situation. So
Yes.
as you know that we are discussing about change management. So we have been discussing about the change start with the top and various other aspects of change management. Now let's discuss about the principles of change management. So how you will like to tackle this change management when it comes to principles?
So Kanchan, change management in any organization or in any community or any welfare state, the change management has to be a really thought through subject. It cannot be a big bang approach. It cannot be just brought about with brute force, though sometimes in the political spectrum we see that. But in the corporate organizations, the change that needs to be brought has to tie up with the strategy where the company wants to proceed in the near future or recent future. So there are many parameters and many thought processes, mindset change. And as we were discussing last week, change management has to come from both sides of the spectrum, the top end of the spectrum and the lower end of the spectrum. And but at the same time, we know that executive power is with the top management, so they are the best people to force it down, actually. But I would always I would think, and I would like to focus on the culture part of it. I mean, it is the company has a culture. Every great organizations, they have a work culture, and we talk about their work culture, and we talk in terms of, we are ex Microsofts, we are ex Googlers. Why we say that? Because it is about the culture, and that culture brings the change, the thought process of the change. So any company, any organization which is there for a long haul, who have a idea of bringing up their solutions and products which will do a paradigm change in the way we work, in the way we produce, in the way we talk, in the way we solve the problems. It needs a change management. And since there is a change management teams, and culture is the most important, the core or the heart of it. And who defines the culture? It is the top management, it is the middle management, it is the people who are joining the organization with certain expectations because their careers are there and they are going to build their careers. So, Kanchan, the best example that I can give you with my experience of working in Japan is that Japanese companies, the iconic Japanese companies, they're all based on the deep cultural aspects. And therefore, it is very hard to imbibe that because culture is unique. You would agree. Culture is unique to organizations, culture is unique to people. But in Japanese companies, we see the Japanese companies everywhere, every place on the planet. It is all because of the thought process, the culture, and the change management they brought through those cultural aspects. What do you say?
Very well said, and I think culture plays quite a important role when it comes to change management. But the thing is that we are talking about change management, but many people don't want to come out of their comfort zone, and they want to remain, they are happy in the same situations. And if there's a change, it's like it's quite a challenge for them. And they are scared sometimes to really venture into these unknown territories. So what is the advice you would like to give these kind of people?
So, as I said in the beginning, Kanchan, that we know that as a human beings, we resist change. We want status quo. We want, as the things are going on, let it be. And there are enough people on both sides of the spectrum who talk about, no, we are changing too fast, or we are changing too slow, or we are not changing at all. So I would think that it is a collective responsibility of the organizations or the companies who work in particular industry. Now, in any industry, there are multiple hundreds and thousands of companies, but only few companies are trailblazers. They are trailblazers because they can bring in the change management within their own organization, and as well that showcases in their products and solutions. If we talk about the welfare state on the political spectrum, there are change management things that are being spoken and talked about all over the world on the policy level. One great example was demonetization in India.
Definitely. And I also want to add that human race itself is quite a resilient race, and they always look forward to do new things. So change management as a policy or as a human trait should be taken and should be developed. Not in organization, but in day-to-day life also. What do you say about this?
Yeah, it is a daily life thing, and more I realize that it is a daily life thing. We need to practice that. We need to change. It starts from our own personal daily choices that we make in the life. We set up our pattern, getting up every day, getting ready, running to the office, attending 8 hours of job, coming back, that life becomes monotonous. And suddenly we realize after several years, life is not moving anywhere because we have not changed anything in our own lifestyle.
Yes, the thing is that we want change when we also don't want change. So there's
exactly
kind of a complex situation.
Exactly. So it is like a mirage in the desert, because I see there is a water over there, and when I reach to that water, it is not there. It was just a reflection. So it is at a personal level, but I would also suggest as a collectively, we need to follow through the change management practices brought in by the industries. 15 years back, we did not really have credit cards or ATM cards and all those things. But today everything is online payment, right?
Yes.
And that change, when it started, if 15 years, 10 years back, we resisted it. Same was the situation in India when there was an internet boom, the PCOs came, the mobile phone calls became cheaper in the world, and suddenly everybody was talking about that. Same thing when the computers came somewhere in the 1995, during the Windows 95, Windows time, people were saying we will lose jobs. But then change management is not about just changing, but it is a full ecosystem. That ecosystem needs to be actually brought in together. And change management cannot always be for the profit oriented. It can have much more connotations, much more policy reaches just beyond the profit part of it.
Exactly, and now I think organizations and institutions, they have to take up this subject and this practice very seriously to really move ahead and come out productively in future their efforts.
Right. So Kanchan,
yes.
Yeah. Just one more example comes to my mind, and I think I like to share. because it is a very profound, and it went very deep into my mind. You know, Lego is a Danish toy production company, and all over the world, you know, children like to use Lego products. And there was a Lego movie as well a couple of years back. So I read somewhere that a small teenager boy wrote to Lego that he wants to, he loves their product and he wants to work with them. Now, Lego is an iconic toy company, we all know,
Yes.
and the products are based on the blocks, right?
Mm.
Now, this was a teenager boy who wrote to Lego that he wants to work with them and he wants to design some toys for them. And a big company like Lego could have ignored that letter, but there was a letter written back from Lego company, somebody, a top executive, explaining the boy that Lego company is a toy company, but it also has other things: operations, design, marketing, research, and implementations, and then sending out the product. And they said, well, we appreciate your interest, but maybe when you grow up and you learn other aspects of the organizational business, we would like you to come and become part of us. And that is what I call culture. That is what I call culture, and that's where Lego has been at the top of this toy production all over the world.
Yeah, nicely. It's quite a nice and interesting example you have put in. And as usual, it is a pleasure talking to you once again, and we meet again tomorrow and extend this topic further. Till then,
Thank you,
bye.
Kanchan.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, I would like to inform you about the science of immunology and what is the contribution of India as a country or India as a civilization to the mankind. Uh, you know, like we are going through a pandemic, it's a global catastrophe, and we are taking precautions. We are staying in-house in our homes to remain protected because we don't have a solution against the pandemic. But this is not the first time that mankind has seen this kind of a situation. It has happened in the past. In fact, the more popular or more devastating pandemics are well known. There are chickenpox, smallpox, plague, and up to a certain extent polio also, which used to affect the infant and toddlers. But today in India, uh, we ran a successful program and we eradicated all these, at least these known pandemics. But I think I would be wrong to say that we have eradicated them because this was going on even in the past. When the chickenpox used to get, and it also spreads like the coronavirus that spreads, it spreads by human touch. So if some person gets infected with, say, chickenpox or smallpox, the humans started observing that, what happens if one guy who has, say, chickenpox, and if he survives that disease for the rest of his life, he will never get it. So it's a power of observation that when they started observing it, they realized that because one time if somebody gets infected with that disease, for the rest of their life, that person becomes immune to that disease because the body itself developed the antidote and will not allow that disease to come back again. So in other words, the resilience of the body increases. So this was the observation, and obviously when ancient humans were seeing this, they would have done some experiment. So the experiments done were, they take the virus out from in chickenpox there used to be small blisters on the skin, and the concentration of the viruses which are affecting, which are responsible for that disease, are found in that on those blisters. So you take that blisters out from that, which is very infectious, material, and give it to a healthy man, and infecting the healthy man. Now, by doing this permutation combination, we have no record of what was going on, but by doing this permutation combination, the humans, ancient humans, realized that if we give the this disease to a certain person in limited quantity, in certain less quantity, so the person will get infected, but the body will fight that infection, and then the person is sort of inoculated for rest of the life. So he will not fully fall sick. He will probably be he will get a fever for a day or so, and then body will fight because the infection is given in a limited quantity, and then the person is inoculated for life for that disease. So this is like an ancient knowledge which humans gathered, and they were able to come out with a solution. Now, this particular knowledge which they got is was kept very as a closely guarded secret. It was not known to a lot of people, and in fact, in India there is a written documentation almost like 1,000 years back about this. So, for how long this was being practiced, we have no idea. The assumption is it could have been more than 2,000 years old science. And in modern world, we call it immunology. So now there's a lot of talk about finding a vaccine for the coronavirus, and a lot of conversation going on about immunology. But this is not something new. This was going on for quite some time. And only mistake Indians did it, that it was kept as a secret to the high priest only, and it was passed through generation to generation. In fact, the high priest, or the person who was actually who knew this knowledge, how much uh, disease to be introduced in a healthy person in order to inoculate, were being called to Middle East, to Syria, to China, and eventually this knowledge reached China, and from China and India, this knowledge reached the rest of the world. So this is so amazing. When I was reading about and when I was trying to do research before I started making this video, it was so amazing that the human ingenuity is so vast, and it's not something which is related to the modernness or the modern sciences that we see. This was already known from 2,000 years back, and the humans were working on the immune system even without the modern medical systems being available. Even today, the modern science have no answer to this pandemic. What we are also speculating that some people will have, natural ability to fight the infection which is caused by the virus. But we don't have data to back that up, so I will not talk about that. Now I will talk. So this is one information which I thought I'll pass on, where the immunology is not a new science. It's been there. The knowledge of how much and how to do this is already present, at least in certain civilizations like India and Chinese civilization. But I would like to draw another attention, which is more recent. India got independence in 1947, but these issues were there. A lot of people were dying of chickenpox and smallpox because this knowledge was sort of lost because we were ruled by the British, and then before that there were a lot of invasions which were going on. So this knowledge was lost. So a lot of people were dying, a lot of infants were dying, and there were a lot of pandemics in India. So the Indian government decided that they want to fight these pandemics, and they decided to launch a very strong, very well organized programs in the 60s. So a lot of inoculation happened. In fact, in 60s and onwards, the inoculation used to happen door to door. The medical officers used to go and each houses and inoculate people so that they don't get that infection. So 60s there was inoculation. In fact, the technology of giving these inoculation was very primitive, because they had to inoculate thousands and thousands of people, because India has a lot of people. So people who got inoculated in 60s and 70s have the scars on their arm, because that inoculation used to leave a scar. But after that, the government created a complete plan. The population today, which is born after 1980s, do not have those scars, because now it is more advanced, and there is a complete roadmap. When the child is born, up to 12 years or 15 years, there is a complete roadmap of how many shots the child has to be given. So now, in fact, every children that is born after 60 in India is covered by these inoculations. So while we are searching for the cure for the pandemic, but the Indians, because we ran a very methodical and well organized plan, the Indian people, Indian government, right from 60s, they had beaten all these deadly pandemics. So is there a inherent resistance to such diseases which are similar to flu and corona in Indians? We don't know. I'm just saying that Indians may be less affected by this, but we don't have any proof, because the Indian people have gone through various inoculations as a mandatory exercise after 1960. Now let's talk about Iran. Iran is very badly affected. There are so many deaths. In fact, some people are saying that Iran is not revealing their numbers. So I will not get into that part. But Iran is very badly affected, even though they also had the inoculation program, a very well-defined inoculation program. But the only problem is they started their inoculation in 1984, starting with BCG and some of the other things. So their plan uh, took took in effect, or basically effective from 1984 onwards. So anyone who's born after 1984 has those inoculations in and out. So the people who are dying in Iran are basically people who did not go through the inoculation. So the older people, middle-aged people who did not have the protection of the inoculation, are the infection of corona is more severe on them than as compared to people who are born after 1984. Then there are certain countries who do not have such programs, because they have some of the countries have not seen these pandemics, unlike India and the Southeast Asia, where these malaria and all these things are very common. Some of the other countries who do not see these things, again, the corona or this particular COVID-19 is deadly for those countries who do not have the inoculation program against these diseases. So I'm just making an assumption. I'm not making any, I'm not making a theory. I'm just saying that these are the symptoms, because none of us have these symptoms. Doctors are trying to build a medical data about how the things are, how the graph, we are talking about flattening the graph. So this is basically a medical term. But I'm just saying what I've learned after doing this study about why it is affecting certain category of people more than other category. And this is what I thought, as my analytics, I thought I'll bring it to you. And with this, I will end this video, but I would like to get your comments, and I would like to get your participation, get your feedback. What do you think? Does it make any sense what I have just said, or you have any of your own theory, which I would like to hear from you? Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and welcome to Top Brass. I'm privileged to have my guest, Mr. Nagesh Sood, who is a well-known human rights activist across India, and also a practicing senior advocate in Ahmedabad High Court. So without further ado, let me welcome Nagesh to Top Brass. How are you, Nagesh?
Hi CK, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good too. There is nothing much happening except that we're enjoying the monsoon. And also, we are on a journey of understanding the human rights. We would like to discuss, something interesting today with you. I think today the topic of discussion would be right to food. So, would you like to throw some information or light on this particular aspect from the legal standpoint?
Yes, of course, Chandrakant. See, basically, right to food is a human right, protecting the right of people to feed themselves with dignity. This means that sufficient food is available, that people have the means to access it, and that it adequately meets the individual's dietary needs. The right to food protects the right of all human beings to be free from hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition. The right to food does not imply that governments have an obligation to hand out free food to everyone who wants it, or anybody has a right to be fed. However, if people are deprived of access to food for reasons beyond their control, for example, people are in detention or at the times of war or natural disasters such as this pandemic, the right requires the government to food directly to the people. The right to food is protected under international human rights and humanitarian law and correlative state obligations as well established under international law. The right to food is recognized in Article 25 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights and Article 11 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, as well as there are different instruments which are internationally recognized. So far as India is concerned, Article 21 of the Constitution of India guarantees a fundamental right to life and liberty. The expression life in this article has been judicially interpreted to mean a life with human dignity and not mere survival or animal existence. The state is then obligated to provide for all those minimum requirements which must be satisfied in order to enable a person to live with human dignity, such as education, healthcare, just and human conditions of work, protection against exploitation, etc. So, the right to food is inherent to a life with dignity, and Article 21 is to be read with Article 39A and 47 to understand the obligations of the government in order to ensure the effective realization of this right. Now, Article 39A of the Constitution requires the state to direct its policy towards securing that the citizens, that is men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means to livelihood. Article 47 spells out the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living of its people as primary responsibility. So the citizens have a right to be free from hunger enshrined in Article 21 to be ensured by the fulfillment of the obligations of the government which are set out in Article 39A and Article 47. Now, if we talk about the present lockdown, of course, the difficulties were created because of the people who are basically belong to marginalized groups such as workers who are daily wagers. Then there were migrants who are working at different places, were wanting to go home because this was the time when this is called the harvesting season for India, and therefore the migrants wanted to go home for this purpose. However, because of lack of transportation, they could not go to their respective natives. And what we observed in the entire country was that the crops were spoiled because of the non-availability of labor and workers. There were uh, uh, there were farmers who could not sell their vegetables and crops in the open market since the markets were closed, and therefore, a lot of supply of food was affected during this lockdown. Now, to kind of deal with that, the Kerala was the first state which started free ration for about 1 month to people who are below poverty lines, and later on, that supply was also given to people from all sections of society, and food kits consisting of different items were distributed after 8th of April. The finance minister actually announced 1.7 trillion rupees relief package to take care of food security measures funded by the Prime Minister's Garib Kalyan scheme. And the help was given to the poorest people by announcing the distribution of 5 kgs of rice and wheat per person, and 1 kg of pulses to every household. So this model by the central government was followed by different states like Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Haryana, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and uh, similarly 5 kg of subsidized food grains of monthly ration per household was provided under the National Food Safety Act 2013 for two-thirds of the Indian population. Thereafter, the Defense Food Research Laboratory, which is based in South India, uh, is a food research organization which is solely responsible to feed India under extreme conditions like disasters, conflicts, and space missions. Uh, so they have been working day and night to feed especially the health workers across India with nutritious meals. So these were some of the schemes that were introduced during lockdown by the government to deal with the sufferings of people, which at this time uh, was obligated on the government to provide food as we are in the unprecedented times of COVID-19.
I also did a little bit research of my own. So I would like to just inform you about that. So when the COVID was on and the lockdown was on across the country, I think the government, in order to uphold the right to food law, they did some changes. I think one of the major changes they did is remove the Mandi Act, which was imposed during the socialism era of 1970 India. So they got rid of the Mandi Act and they opened the market so that the farmer, like for example, you mentioned that the farmers were not able to sell their produce. So government ensured that farmer is free to sell his produce at whatever price he wants is suitable to whoever he wants. In fact, the India was in such a state earlier that the farmer from one farmer cannot sell his produce to another farmer. They were barred to do that. So all that is gone now. Why I'm bringing this point? Because I've been contacted by a few of the middlemen. As you know, Nagesh, we are in business consulting business. And because of this removal of the Mandi Act, the people who are actually selling at the Mandi, that means they were getting produce from farmers and then selling it to consumers, are suddenly feeling out of job. And they have become very, very rich. So some of these guys have contacted me by looking at my website and they are now saying what we should do now. So, the things are totally changed. While the government is pro farmer and they are upholding, they have uphold the law of right to food. The other point I like to bring to your notice, as per my research, is that the land is limited in our country. It's a limited land. The land cannot increase. So, whatever we can do scientifically, like for example, you mentioned the research institute in South India. Whatever we can do, we can predict the rains, we can modify genetics, we can do water harvesting in a proper way and all that. The growth, unlike other industry which can go to double or 3 times, 4 times, the growth in agriculture cannot exceed beyond 3%. So suppose we make a 1 or 2% growth as compared to previous year, it is considered miracle. So we are actually grappling with this situation where one side is that markets are getting opened up and there are certain people who are getting jobless who are sort of middlemen. And other side is that the production on the agriculture side is not huge as compared to other industries. For example, if you invest in a scooter industry, you can make a projection that, hey, I'm making scooters in India and I will sell it to Taiwan. So you can immediately double or triple your projections. But in agriculture space, which is actually producing food, the maximum growth by God's grace cannot be more than 4%. So I think these are certain things that the government is grappling with. And why I'm bringing these two critical points, so that you can then talk about the food security bill that government has brought in and how humongous the task is, considering these limitations or blockades that we have.
Yes, definitely. You see, the government's endeavor in these times have been exemplary. I mean, they have tried their best to feed the needy in this unprecedented times, and it has opened up with a lot of schemes. As you said, that the certain systems have been abolished because of the fact that people were not able to get access to the produce, or the farmers were not able to sell their produce in the markets. Now, the system, which has been there since a long time, saw a change because of the fact that people were unable to have the access to these markets, and also that due to the due to the lack of harvesting of crops, because of the shortage of labor and the machineries, the actual crops were spoiled. We understand this position that the government has an excess of food grains with them. There is plenty of food grain which are stocked with the government, and therefore there is no dearth of the provision for food for people. But unfortunate part is that how does that food reaches to people who are affected? So that system needs to be improvised. That system needs to be, thought about, so that in times like this, the food what is available, which is in plenty. We have a good harvesting season last year, and even this year we could have had a good harvesting season, but for the fact that the harvesting could not take place, but for the fact the produce, vegetables, etc., could not reach the market, the supply chain got disconnected. And therefore, the government has now have to concentrate on developing a system where such blocks can be overcome.
Nagesh, I think I've heard that
the government has also started the e-market. I don't know what it's. I think it's called eNAM or something, which is a portal where they can start finding the client. But I think the challenge today is that the things are happening very rapidly. While the food security bill is there, in fact, the food security bill that Indian government has started is the free rationing till November end. Like you mentioned, that 5 kg of rice per person and pulses, etc., given to 800 million people from starting from February to November. Now, feeding so many people, 800 million is equal to 2.5 times the population of the European Union. So it's a very huge.
Yes.
It's a huge program. At the same time, the farmers are facing an issue where they are suddenly exposed to this new marketplace, because earlier they knew whatever meager amount they will get because the amounts were fixed. Now the amounts are not fixed. So they have to learn to adapt to the new ways. That means finding new marketing strategies, finding new clients, how to sell. Even though eNAM is there, but they have to be taught how to use it. So I think the farmers are doing their job. I feel the government is also doing their job, but there is a need for somebody who can handhold these people and make use of these technologies. So I think that is where we are in terms of food security that we have in India.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree that, of course, the system is in place, but how to make effective use of the system is what we need to work on. Definitely, there are programs which are there in place by the government to look into the shortfalls or shortcomings we had during this pandemic, that how well we can distribute the food to large number of people. We already have a PDS system in place, but to cater to such a huge population, it's a humongous task. And how well we can do it, we need to have some time. We need to have some more technology, which is more friendly to people who are not used to it so far. And therefore, this is how we can develop the system after this experience, what we have gone through.
I think there is opportunity for people who are actually working as a middleman, is to reinvent themselves and become trainer for the farmers and helping them sort of a sales guys to help them sell their produce in a different way. So I think the opportunities are also opening up. People have to now think very fast and smart. So I think that is where we are, even in the area of agriculture. So it is great pleasure talking to you, understanding the legal side of the whole thing, Nagesh. It is my personal pleasure learning from you.
Absolutely. It is actually mutual. So we are sharing our experience. So there's nothing what is being taught, but it's a conversation which is simplified to understand what things are and how best we can use them. So it is wonderful being with you, Chandrakant. So look forward to explore some new things tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nagesh. And tomorrow we will discuss some other aspects around the human rights. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye. You take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello friends, I'm Kanchan from Akulmach Technology and you are welcome to Top Brass. Today we have Ritu Gupta, who is the CEO of Four Seasons PR, and she also has a deep interest in Ramayana. Welcome to the show, Ritu.
Thank you, Kanchan. Thank you so much.
Ritu, as you know, Ram is finest man among men. As you rightly said, he is Purushottam. But Ramayana is a story of Ram and Sita. So what do you think about Sita's life with Ram?
I agree with you. Ramayana is the story of two main characters, which is Ram and Sita. And Sita is the main female character. And this is their love story of Ram and Sita. Sita is described as daughter of Mother Earth, goddess Earth Bhumi, and she's a adopted daughter of King Janak. She was an educated woman. She got teachings from best of the teachers during those time, and she was a liberated woman too, because she chose Ram of her own will. She decided to get married to Ram, and this was in Swayamvar. So this is a very liberated act as per during those times. She people like me, or many people like me in modern cities, even in small towns of India, want to be like Sita, because Sita was not meek or weak as people they think her to be, but she was a strong-willed, strong lady who took very important decisions and who took her own decisions independently in many key points of her life. Like the first key point was getting married to Ram. Second key point was to accompany Ram to exile for 14 years. So these are two very important things. And then I find Sita to be a very kind-hearted woman also, because when she was in exile, she was told not to cross Lakshman Rekha. But when Ravana, disguised as a beggar, came to her kutia, her house, she thought that I should give some alms to the beggar, because no one should go empty-handed from Sri Ram's house. Number two, which I feel, this point I feel very strongly, that she believed in her self-respect. Because when Sri Ram got to know about love and Kush being his own son, he wanted Sita back in his life, but Sita did not go back to Ram's life. Rather, she went back forever to Mother Earth. She went back in the lap of Mother Earth from where she came from.
So, in modern times, is there anything we can learn from Sita's life, or can we personify Sita in any way?
We should, in today's time, I think the modern women, they should take lessons from Sita's life, because Sita was, as I told you, an independent, liberated woman. And this is the real women empowerment. Number two, she always stood by the decisions of her husband. Her character was very strong. She provides all the motivation which is necessary for women in today's world to excel in any field. Now, I don't think so. Women should take those traits of her life as per, there are many traits in her life, and they should not choose only those traits which they think they choose their consciousness as per their own convenience. Because Sita, we should rather study and follow the characteristics to seek inspiration and guidance in many things in our life, like what are the things we should resist from and what are the things we should follow. Sita, I think, is the most positive character. She's the right role model for any woman in the present time, and she was a perfect wife because of Sita ji, because of her character, because of her traits, because of the decisions she always took in life. Sri Ram could excel in anything and everything which he wanted to do. She followed the path of dharma. She followed the same path of dharma, the same path of love which Sri Ram wanted. So only those women who are educated, who are liberated in their brains, who are independent in their thinking, who are independent in their decision making can do so. And I think the modern woman should be like her.
Nice talking to you, Ritu. We will meet again tomorrow and discuss other aspects of Ram and Sita.
Surely,
and
Kanchan.
the Ramayan's aspect.
Surely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello friends, I am Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies and you are welcome to our show. And today we have Sitesh Srivastava, who has a deep interest in corporate training, and he's closely associated with radio broadcasting. So welcome to the show, Sitesh. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kanchan. It's a great day, great honor, lot of powerful feeling today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, and I'm very happy, and I'm quite kind of. I'm not able to suppress my feeling because today we are celebrating Vijay Divas, and Prime Minister Modi lit up the Swarnim Vijay Mashal on this eve. This is the 50th anniversary of 1971 Indo-Pak War. So I think I'd like to, before I begin this show, I would like to say greetings on this historical anniversary of Vijay Divas, a day to cherish and celebrate the valor of Indian Army, who made 93,000 Pakistani soldiers to surrender in this war.
Yes, Kanchan, it's a great day for our Indian Army. It's also a great day for the morale of Indian citizen, Indian people. After the independence of 1947, this was the biggest morale boosting military event of our times. And I can tell you this was something which it is very important for today's generation to understand the importance of it, the pride it brought to our parents' life and our grandparents' life. And India was still not a superpower in those days like we are today economically. And India was still a socialist, a deep-rooted socialist country. And that time, this event that happened, and our Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw giving an ultimatum to the East Pakistan. But more than the victory of Indian forces, I think the bigger lesson, the bigger glory comes that India could help a community, a region, a geography to liberate them from the perpetrators. And India gave all the full freedom, full hand for the creation of Bangladesh rather than capturing it itself. That is a big brother behavior in the world when India was still around just 30 years from the freedom. I think that is a bigger message that went out from our Iron Lady Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. What do you say?
Yes, I agree with you, but I think it is more than that because this 13-day military conflict is one of the shortest war in history, and it ended up in decisive win for India, and it led to the creation of Bangladesh, as you said. So, but there are a few things which are very important because at that point of time, what I have read that Pakistan was not ready to take up the elected prime minister at that point of time, who was from Bangladesh. So the conflict took place in the backdrop of this tension between Pakistan and West Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And because East Pakistan is Bengali majority, which was closer to India and then to Pakistan. So that was the conflict. And on 25th March 1971, Pakistan Army led by Lieutenant General Tika Khan launched an operation Searchlight to quell the rebellion in East Pakistan. Massive human rights violation reportedly was denied and by the Pakistan Army during this operation. So what I feel is that India was compelled to come into this war, but then they fought it and they won.
Yes, Kanchan, and I think the camaraderie between the Indian Army and the Indian political establishment, that is also a very, very memorable aspect of this. When I remember when Mr. Field Marshal Manek Shaw was asked by our Prime Minister Indira Gandhi if he was ready to go to war with Pakistan, and he just replied, "I am always ready, sweetie." And that was Field Marshal Manek Shaw, and he gave an ultimatum. This was a 9-month liberation war, Kanchan, and India came into a last few months that India came to support, and it was clear from day one that the East Pakistan would be separated. But we had a great challenge on both the borders, and that was a big challenge for Indian Army. I am not sure how supported they were at that point in time, but what it comes that 93,000 people surrender, and from our side, from Indian Army, there was a loss of around 3,500 men from our side, and therefore I think the lesson that is went out from India as a big brother in Southeast Asia and the Asian, that was a great thing for India and our morale. From an army's perspective, I think Indian Army, which was not so great in the show during the 1962 because of our less preparedness, or we did not have great equipment, or probably it was more about a surprise from China. It came a befitting morale booster in 1971, just 8 years later. And I think that was a high point of Indian military. And after that, it has always been going up and ahead of it. And India and Bangladesh, I think that is something that should always remain sweet, and Bangladesh should always remember India's support for them.
Yes, you know that East Pakistan became Bangladesh, as we are discussing, with the Awami League leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and becoming the first president in January 1972, as well as the second prime minister in 1974. Mujib, who was assassinated in 1975, and is the father of the current Bangladesh PM Sheikh Hasina. And at the same time, I also want to tell you that this year, Prime Minister Modi has lit up the Swarnim Vijay Mashal from the eternal flame of National War Memorial, and 4 Vijay Mashal are lit from eternal flame of National War Memorial, and these mashal will be carried to various parts of country, including villages of Paramveer Chakra and Mahavir Chakra awardees in 1971 war. And soil from the villages of these awardees and from the areas where the major battles are fought in 1971 are being brought to National War Memorial. So I think that's wonderful initiative is being done this year.
That's true, and I think no government can afford to not to do the respects, give the due respect to the armed forces, because the armed forces work without neutral. They live neutral. They without ideologies. They are for the nation. They are always for the nation, with the nation. Because of them, we can sleep, we can enjoy, we can entertain. And I think that nature of army is something that needs to be respected by everyone, all of us, including the political masters who manage.
Yes.
And this is what is happening. And I'm really proud of the current government dispensation, who are giving the armed forces their due. And in fact, I'm very happy that once old former general is our also a minister in the Prime Minister Modi's government. And that is something which is very interesting. And Bangladesh war, Vijay Divas. I also heard on All India Radio today about some other patriot from in those days from the Bengal, because that part of Bengal has been always very close during the pre-independence days, the Chittagong and the Dhaka and all those places. So it's also a great memory between those two countries, Bangladesh. I have met wonderful Bangladeshi friends in Japan and Southeast Asia. And, it is very good to see Bangladesh progressing in terms of the textile that they are producing for the world big labels. And I believe India-Bangladesh friendship goes a long, long way. And Indian Army's contribution is always remembered.
Before we end, I would also like to mention about the Navy Day and the operation which is being done in 1971. It's called Operation Trident. And at that point of time, Indian Army has surrounded the financial hub of Karachi. And that is the day we celebrate as the Navy Day on 4th December. And I think we have done a program on that too. And also, I would like to mention the Battle of Longyearbyen, where we have celebrated about the valor of Major K.S. Chandpuri. So all these people who contributed with their valor and safeguarded the boundaries of India. So big salute to them. And again, congratulations to you on this Vijay Divas and to all Indians.
Thank you. Sure, Kanchan. I wish all our Indian nationals as well as our Bangladesh compatriots a great Vijay Divas or Bijoya Divas to them.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello friends, I'm Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies and you are welcome to Top Brass. Today we have Sitesh Shrivastava from Johannesburg, South Africa. He has a vast experience in teaching IT professional and marketing professional, and he has a deep interest in corporate coaching. So welcome to Top Brass, Sitesh.
Thank you, Kanchan. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm very fine. Busy in all work which we have to do from home. And what about at your neighborhood? How people are reacting to this lockdown? Because now people can't go out in the parks and they have to follow social distancing. So how children and young people are reacting to this situation?
Mixed reactions, I would say. Most of the reactions that I am seeing is like surprise, once in a lifetime kind of a reactions, Kanchan. And it is very, very hard for everyone to understand what has just happened or what is still happening and how long will it happen. From the children to the kids, to the teenagers, to the adults, to the old age people, everyone, corporates, everyone is very, very surprised. In fact, they're scared. But you know what? Human race is quite a strong race. They have overcome so many of those challenges before in centuries, in the recorded history and unrecorded history. So I'm sure that it will come out again.
This is quite a crazy time because life has suddenly changed. We are interacting through technology only. Now, what generally people say that change is the only constant in life. But then,
that's right.
Are we prepared to really face this change? We have any support system to manage this change in our lives? Because I see there's a lot of toll on the young children, especially school-going children, and of course on college-going students also. But I feel that there should be taught, there should be a subject of change management from early, from the school. Children should be taught about how to tackle the change in their lives, so that when change happens, they pass seamlessly and with confidence. What do you think about this?
So, Kanchan, change happens anyway, whether we like it or not like it, change happens. the time that ticks in our house, the clocks, the walls, it keeps changing. The only thing is that we try to bring in a sense of calm and continuity in our dealings with people, in our dealings with children especially. But change is anyway happening. The only thing now is that it has become very clear that it cannot remain in the background of our mindset and our consciousness. It has to be told and trained, and children need to be told that every second life is changing, situation is changing, the stage is changing. And therefore, students, children at home, youngsters at home, or in the colleges or in the corporate life, they need to be told to live in uncertainty that a time change brings.
Correct.
The moment we talk about change, people become uncertain.
Right.
They don't want to change. They don't want to change the processes. They don't want to change the functionalities. But then, whether they like it or not like it, somebody had told me years back, the biggest change in the last 50, 60 years that has happened is the change nobody could have stopped, is the technological change.
Very true.
So I feel that it is better to embrace the change, agree to the change, and talk about it, and tell people and ourselves that the next moment the life will change, and we should prepare for it.
Yeah, so one last point which I want to discuss with you, that is it now very essential or very important to have a subject of a change management in the curriculum of students?
Yes, I think so. And why I say I believe that what you say is that we live in a very, very interconnected world where a tutor or an educator is not the only sole education or knowledge provider. Everybody can go to a Google or a Bing search or any search and find out a lot of other information, probably that educator doesn't know. And the millennials or the generation Alpha or generation Z millennials, they basically define their life around technology. And therefore, they are always questioning. They are questioning their parents. They are questioning their educators. Whatever we say, whatever you say, they will suddenly, but you know what, I saw this. So they know that there is something that they can find out better and faster than us. So they are the natural inheritors of this change management curriculum. So going forward, for everyone, for the educators like us, for the students, everyone needs to have the skill sets which I put them into these categories: resiliency, flexibility and adaptability, emotional intelligence, continuous learning, creativity and critical thinking, and at the most important, entrepreneurial skills. And I think this should be the part of the curriculum, but I will leave it to the top educators of different countries in which grade to start this. Whether it should be in the primary education, it should be in the secondary, or it should be somewhere later in life.
Yes, true, and you have put it very beautifully. We will be discussing about this change management in education and in the lives of young people in further shows. For today, I would like to thank you. We have learned so much about change management. We'll see you soon on Dot Plus program.
Thank you. And I wish all